So like in New Thought, we say there is one power, one presence, one love that is permeating and saturating absolutely everything. It is perfect, whole, and complete, and each one of us is an individualized expression of that love. Yes. Okay, we're done.
Amen. That was good.
That was really good.
You know, we have a tendency in New Thought to really harp on the good things because we have reason for that, and I'll get to that in a minute. So everybody's good. I just did it for everybody, right? All challenges are taken care of. We're all tripping down the rose path, right? Everything is effortless now, right?
Right. Okay.
Everybody? Sure. We're good? Done. All spiritual growth is taken care of. We've acknowledged that there is this one power that is love, that is present through and as everything, so we're good, right? I got news for you. Life is difficult. Now, you don't hear that in New Thought churches very often.
Nope.
We all say, it's effortless, it's easy, all we got to do is change our thinking. And we will experience a new life. But I'm telling you, life is difficult. It is a challenge. We are here to experience the fullness of life, and in that fullness, there is joy and love and communion and camaraderie and honor and all of the things that bring our heart to fullness and express through us when we are the best that we can be. Yet there is pain and grief and suffering, although the suffering's optional, honestly. But the pain is probably inevitable because that is part of life. And the challenges that we face on a day-to-day basis are about how we choose to experience and live this life. What are we going to be in this moment to express this high idea of love and peace and beauty and joy that we can see easily? Maybe. See, today's talk was, how's it looking? Because one of the things I've noticed in my journey through this spiritual experience and this endeavor of deepening into an awareness of this allness of love is that it's truly dependent upon how I'm feeling that day. I don't know if anybody else experiences this. You ever get up and just have a bad day? Mm-hmm. Anybody ever had one of those?
Yeah.
That never happens to any of us. We all go tripping down the rose path, having a wonderful time every single day. It's not like anything's happened yet. You woke up. You woke up. And already you're sitting there going, oh, I just want to pull the covers over my head and forget this day started. Because I already feel bad. That happens to us. It's the nature of the human being. It's not that we're imperfect beings, because the actual essence of us is perfect, whole, and complete. It's that we've been looking at a lot of stuff all of our lives. From the very first to wherever we are now, there has been stuff in our lives. We have gathered a vision of negativity and harm by those experiences that we've had that hurt deeply, or those experiences that we've seen that shocked and terrified us. And all of this has been brought into our consciousness and is working at a subconscious level about how we're experiencing lives. So, has anybody ever said, I can't see that happening? Right? What's the universe say to that?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. And then, have you ever said, yeah, I can see that happening? Mm-hmm. What's the universe say to that?
Yes.
Yes. The universe only got one answer. It has always been yes. It has always been yes. And thank goodness it doesn't say yes immediately to everything we think. Think about that for a moment. Pick one of those thoughts. Anyone that would make you blush or feel ashamed. Okay, thank goodness the universe isn't saying yes immediately. See, what Holmes said when he wrote about this was that it was not our specific thoughts, although they have a great deal of power depending on how trained our thinking is, to bring about change in our experience. It is the tendency of our thinking. And in the tendency of our thinking, that is what brings forth the experiences that we have in life. What we choose to look at is what we generally choose to see. Right? So we can go out there, and if you wake up, have you ever noticed this on the day you woke up and you wanted to pull the covers back over your head and say, oh, I just don't feel like it today, that the rest of the day pretty much agreed with you? You know, it took something pretty stellar to turn that particular attitude around so that the day changed. You know, I've noticed in myself that when I wake up in one of those moods where I'm just like, I wake up and something's been running in the back of my head and I'm, you know, negative, highways, roads, work, you know, certain things usually key me off on that way. And I'll wake up, and the next thing I know, I'm stuck in a traffic jam. I get reamed out at work for having screwed something up. I can't get any of my work accomplished, and I end up going home absolutely exhausted, sitting down in front of the TV and watching 5 episodes of NCIS.
I can see that.
Thank God for Netflix. Part of what we do in our lives is to set ourselves in motion for what we're going to experience in that day's period of time. Because usually we're not thinking about what we're going to experience in that decade's worth of time, right? Most of us are concerned with what's happening today. We may have plans for the future. That's a good thing. Setting intentions, looking for a direction to go, steer the boat in that direction. That's all a good thing. You know, but what we are living is right now. And we happen to string a bunch of right nows together and call it 24 hours, and that's the day we're living in. That's the amount of time we generally get to work with it. Some of us longer than others, you know, but we're walking through our day and saying, this is how my day is going, you know. And if we've started with a negative attitude, we're generally going to see things that, you know, especially in an election season, we're going to see things that will have a tendency to compound that idea of negativity, unless we take specific action to shift it around. Now, the thing that came up for me when I came with this title of How's It Looking, where there were 3 parts of it. The first part is, how are we looking at the world? How are we judging the experiences that come to us? How are we setting an intention for the experiences that we choose to have? And then I thought about it a little more, and I'll get back to that. I thought about it a little more, and what I started realizing was the term, how is it looking? I'll tell you how it's looking. It's looking through your eyes. And it is that infinite power and presence and spirit that has required you to be here as you right now to express itself through you. So it's looking through your eyes. If we can remember that, it might just shift how we're looking at things. You know? I usually don't do this. Turn to somebody and look into their eyes. Find somebody. Okay, enough of that. It's always embarrassing. You look into somebody's eyes and you see a little bit of yourself there. Especially if they're a relative. But the truth is that is God looking at God in an individualized form. That is that life essence, that spirit, the allness of everything, that totality of love embodied in each one of us, looking at that same presence in another individualized form. And yes, it can be a little disconcerting, or warm and fuzzy. I like the warm and fuzzy ones. They really make me feel good. So the third part about how it's looking is how we're judging. Okay? We see a lot of stuff going on in the world, and we make judgments about it. It's the nature of a human being. The mind is very good at cataloging and making judgments and weighing and assessing whether you choose something to be good or bad. And within that, I'm really going to leave that one alone, because I'll tell you what, everybody's got judgments. Good, bad, or indifferent. It's your job to decide which ones you want to believe. Because that's the beauty of life. We are all empowered to choose everything that we decide to believe in. And if we don't want to believe in that, guess what? We can change that belief. That's what New Thought is about. Shifting the tendency of our thinkings to a better experience of life. You see, sometimes life out there looks pretty brutal. And that pain arises. And we feel the disconnection that makes us feel isolated and alone and helpless. and all of those parts of life that we really don't like. And we do a lot of different things to try to stop feeling that way, right? Some of us do drugs and alcohol. That's a big one. Some of us choose lust and love. Others of us go shopping. That's a cool thing, you know. Whatever it is that we try to do, it's an outside effort to change this inside feeling that we have. And generally, that's the wrong way to look at things, you know. And I'm telling you that, and I know it's a judgment about the right and wrong ways to look at things, but my experience has been when I try to fill a void from the outside, the void never gets filled. And I just end up doing more and more and more and more of whatever it was I thought was going to fill that void, and it still doesn't get filled. That's just my experience. You can check it against your own if you so desire. You know. When I turn that around, one of the tenets of New Thought is that life is lived from the inside out. That what we're seeing out there is a reflection of what we are in here. And when we change our thinking from that negative thought loop that makes everything out there look scary or inappropriate or whatever, take your pick, then we begin to experience life differently. And there are a couple of different ways that we can go about changing the tendency of our thinking so that we are experiencing life more joyfully, more lovingly, more wholly, more completely, more prosperously, more creatively. The first of those things that we can do is make a choice. Everybody knows this is easy, right? I'm going to be happy today. No, I'm happy today. That work for everybody? Yeah, me neither. You know, I got to kind of work at it. I really got to work at it. That's why we have practical prayer. Practical prayer truly is about getting our thinking changed into a more positive affirmation of the truth that we intellectually know. So that the intellectual knowing of that truth drops into our heart and we can feel the experience of that love and that joy and that abundance that is the very nature of being. You know, practical prayer is about changing our belief. Not by pushing against something, but by recognizing the truth of something that already is that we had forgotten.
Yes.
You know, so when I'm feeling lack and limitation and in whatever form that may be, the truth is that I have chosen not to look at abundance in any of its forms. When I'm choosing to feel isolated and alone, that is because I have chosen not to look at the truth of the unity of all life. Those are the ways that we change that in practical prayer. Practical prayer is just stating the truth. We know this to be true of an omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent source that we call Spirit or God, that is permeating and saturating everything. So it must be mine now too. Otherwise, those little words of omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent don't make sense. God cannot be everywhere except the 3 feet around me. So it's about our changing our thinking from that negative thought that I am somehow isolated from the world and this power and presence that is love to I am one with this. It must be present since it is present everywhere. It must be present in me, and it is my right by divine inheritance of being a human being to experience that now. How often do we do that? Until that's the reality. Often we get asked, how often do you pray for something? Until you got it. You know, then you don't need to pray for it anymore because it's yours. It's how we look at it. It's really how we look at it. And then there's another way to do this. And this is really the core of this message today, is gratitude. So when we move away from this idea of lack or limitation into this idea of the gratitude for all that is ours now and all that is not ours now. You know, sometimes we have to start with that little bit of negative twist on that. I am so grateful I didn't wreck my car today. You know? I heard one the other day. It says, I didn't crash into that. I parked strongly. I love that one. I parked with clarity. You know, but sometimes we have to start with that little bit of something, being grateful for something we don't have, you know, to get to something where we can be grateful for that thing that we do have, that we can recognize. And as this pearl of gratitude grows in our lives and in our consciousness, we can expand it. Have you ever noticed that? Anybody keep a gratitude journal?
Yes.
Anybody ever do a gratitude journal?
Yes.
Anybody ever do just a gratitude list? 4 things that you're grateful for
Yes.
today?
Every day.
Remember that, today. Sometimes we forget, because human beings have built-in forgetters. Otherwise, we wouldn't come to Sunday morning celebration to remember, oh yeah, I am one, with the one. Right? So, sometimes gratitude is a choice that we make. We can choose to be grateful, or we can choose not to be grateful. We can choose to be isolated and selfish and burdened by life, or we can choose to be part of this experience of life that is the gift itself that has been given us as consciousness, and be blessed by all that is ours now. So I invite you, and I know I've left a few loose ends there, but this is the nature of life. It's difficult. We make choices. Sometimes those choices end up resulting in the things that we would like to have. Sometimes not so much. But do you know what the beauty of this is? The beauty of life is that nothing is the same, ever. You are not the same people who walked into the room this morning. You have evolved from where your consciousness was when you stepped in the door. Not because of what I've said, but by the nature of life itself. You have become more deeply aware of where you are, wherever that is. So when we develop a little bit of gratitude, it's easier to get up in the morning when you want to pull the covers over your head, stay in bed because it's going to be dangerous. The car may be parked with a little more clarity than you want. You know, things may happen. But when we have this basis of gratitude in our lives, we are up to the challenge. See, it's always about challenge and opportunity. It can be a blessing or a burden. Everything. It's about how we look at it. And we have the opportunity and the ability to change how we're looking at it. In any way, shape, or form. Wherever you are, whatever is happening for you in this moment now, you have the ability to change how you're looking at it and choose a greater experience of life. I invite you, as you go through your week, spend 3 minutes, just 3 minutes a day, finding 4 things that you're grateful for. And every day that you do this, don't use the same 4 things. Because there is so much to be grateful for in life that I am absolutely positive that everyone here or within the sound of my voice can find 4 things to be grateful for today. And experiment with that, and see how your life responds to it. See, I'm grateful that you're here. I'm grateful that each one of you is open to an idea of a better life and a greater expression of life. And I invite you to see that as well.